we're not in the predictions business here at After Hours, so we can't say exactly what will happen in the Senate trial or even beyond. However, there are some clues that lawmakers are dropping that could help us better understand this process moving forward. So joining us now to help break down those clues is One America's Jennifer Franco. Jennifer, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Of course.
So a lot of this, we've kind of been expecting this impeachment process for a long time now, maybe too long, a lot of the critics would say. So what are some of the next steps that we should be looking at when it comes to the House side of this?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of talk, a little action. Up until today, we heard from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and she said that tomorrow's the big day. That's when her caucus, the House, is going to vote on this resolution to send the 2 articles of impeachment against President Trump to the upper chamber, and those charges being abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. And mind you, this is nearly a month after the House approved those articles. So Nancy Pelosi's been holding on to them for weeks now. And now once that vote happens, again, that's basically giving the green light for a trial in the upper chamber to start. And that is when the Republicans have the ball in their court. But, you know, this goes without saying, but Pelosi warned Mitch McConnell, the leader in the upper chamber, and the rest of the Republicans, not to dismiss the articles. So kind of an interesting rift going on there between leadership.
That is really interesting, too. And, you know, this has kind of brewed up something that a lot of people didn't see coming, is that Republicans have actually used this process by Nancy Pelosi to kind of weaponize the Democrat primary election. In fact, I think we have a clip that I want to bring up. This is House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy kind of repurposing this narrative to say this isn't necessarily about hurting President Trump anymore, but some of the more progressive challengers in the Senate. Let's take a look.
So Senator Sanders actually has a chance to win, but not now that Nancy Pelosi has held these documents. There was nothing gained. It goes against everything she said. But if you look at the true political nature of why, to harm one campaign and give a benefit to another. The only rightful thing of Joe Biden is to make a pledge not to campaign why Bernie Sanders cannot.
So, Jennifer, we talked earlier about how there's a divide, of course, between progressives right now being in the news, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, but there's also been this divide for a long time between the establishment wing of the Democratic Party and the more progressive wing. And so that's kind of playing out right now, but it all depends on what happens in the Senate. So what kind of timetable are we looking at when it comes to impeachment in the upper chamber?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I do want to go back to what McCarthy said there. He's sort of accusing Pelosi of meddling in the 2020 election, and I'll get to that again in a separate point just a little bit in regards to the Senate. But ultimately, they're the ones that are in charge. We heard from Majority Leader Mitch McConnell speaking earlier today as well, and he said that he anticipates a trial beginning next Tuesday. So that's interesting because technically, if you go back to the Senate rules, the upper chamber has 24 hours to kickstart that process after they get the article. So if Pelosi does what she says she's going to do tomorrow, we would be seeing or expecting a trial Thursday, but not so fast. Like we heard McConnell say this morning, there's a lot of housekeeping they want to tend to. Now, we didn't get into the details as to what that means, but there have been reports that a few things might be happening there. So one of those being this debate that's been happening between Democrats and Republicans about the Senate rules. That could get started. It only takes one senator to bring up a resolution. So once the process gets started, the impeachment trial process, you know, somebody can pump the brakes on that and present something. There's also been that debate happening about limiting the president's war powers in regards to Iran. So we might see some action play out on the Senate floor there. So I think McConnell is taking all of that into consideration, and that's why he's giving us that next Tuesday day. And then once that does happen, we'll see Chief Justice John Roberts, you know, administer the oath of office to the senators, and then we'll see that trial play out for several weeks. And not to get too into the weeds, but we'll see, you know, the trial could be 6 days a week of them meeting for this trial, or maybe 5 days and 1 day of legislating. So really it all depends. And again, we'll see that kind of kick off next Tuesday, according to what Mitch McConnell said.
That's why we bring you on, so you have to read the Senate rules. I don't like reading all those books and
They're
things like that.
just so meticulous. Yeah, and they never go by the book. But another thing also that was interesting, we did hear from some top Senate Republicans, and sort of not a rift, I don't want to call it a rift, but there's been some contradicting happening. We did hear from Mitch McConnell say that he's confident that he has the 51 votes to not only dismiss the articles, but also to just sort of set the rules. And he's like, listen, if you, the Democrats, want to bring in witnesses, we might decide that once the trial gets underway. We're not making any promises here. But then we heard from Roy Blunt today basically saying no, we don't have the 51 votes. And he's pointing to those election concerns that I talked about a little bit ago. It's the moderates, the moderate Republicans that are raising concern. Of course, we're in an election year, so they're concerned that their vote on this is going to play heavy in their elections.
Wow, a little extra drama added to
Yeah.
this whole process. Right when you think that
Always
you
a
have it
lot.
nailed down, they throw something new at you.
Always.
All right, Jennifer Franco, I suggest all of our viewers go follow her on social media. You're always on top of the news. You can also
Yeah.
catch her on One American News. Her hours are right there on our social media page. Just another subtle plug. But Jennifer, thank you very much for joining us
Appreciate
tonight.
it. Thank you.